We're going to be in 15, 12 through 14. John 15, verses 12 through 14. Only 2 verses. It goes like this. Everybody there? I command you to love each other in the same way that I love you. And here's how to measure it. The greatest love is shown when people lay down their lives for their friends. You are my friends if you obey me. The greatest way of showing your love is to lay down your life for your friends. And you're a friend of Jesus if you do what he tells you to do. Pretty simple. It's Memorial Day weekend, a day that was set apart. Actually started back in the old days of Decoration Day. It started in the South. The sisters and brothers and aunts and uncles, moms and dads would go to the cemetery, and they were putting flowers on the graves of the Confederate soldiers. And that's how it all began. It was called Decoration Day. And then it began to take, the people in the North saw what was going on. They started using the same thing, started practicing the same thing. And over the years, it became known as Memorial Day. And it's not really that old. I forget now what year the United States adopted it or whatever, but they decided the first Monday in May, or let's see, the last Monday in May would be designated as Memorial Day. It's a day that we remember the fallen. Not the veterans, not all the soldiers, but the ones who fell, the ones who gave their life, who gave everything. They have a special place in my heart. And I guess I'm blessed to have a lot of friends who were vets. Most of them are Vietnam vets. And one of my buds, some of you may know him, Pat, my friend Pat, one morning came up and we were eating breakfast, getting ready to eat. We were waiting on her to bring her food and stuff, and Pat turned around, he looked at me, he said, remember this name. I want you to do me a favor. Remember this name. I said, okay. He said, write it down. I said, okay. He said, remember this name. I said, all right, what is it? He said, Milton Lee Olive III. I said, Milton Lee Olive III. He said, Milton Lee Olive III. I said, okay. Tell me about Milton Lee. He said, I was there the morning that they brought Milton's body back in. And he said, Milton saved the lives of the men next to him by taking a hand grenade and picking it up that was live, and he covered it with his body, and he absorbed the blast. And I was there the morning that they brought him in. I said, did you know him? He said, no. I said, did you see him? He said, no. I was just there. I was just there the day they brought his body in. But he said, I remember at that point, I made a promise that Milton would never be forgotten as long as I had a breath of air. As long as I could say his name, Milton would always be here. I said, okay. All right, okay. So I looked it up. I looked up Milton. Milton was a young black boy. Not that color has anything to do with it. But in a way, his background, he was from Chicago. He was born in Chicago. And his mama died 4 hours after he was born. He was raised by his daddy. And then he ended up spending most of his time in Mississippi with his grandmother and grandfather. I would say they probably were instrumental in raising Milton. He's buried there. That's one reason I think that part of his life was so important. Milton joined the Army, and he was in the 173rd Airborne, same outfit Pat was in. They were called the Sky Soldiers. The Vietnamese, the Viet Cong, called them the Sky Soldiers because they fell out of the sky. They were paratroopers. They were the first outfit into Vietnam. Milton and his company were in pursuit of some Viet Cong, and they engaged them, and there was a brief firefight, lasted roughly 15 minutes, and then the Viet Cong retreated. 5 guys, Milton and his lieutenant and 3 others, pursued the Viet Cong, and in the pursuit, the way I understand it, they were going down a path, and all of a sudden a hand grenade is thrown in their midst. Milton, Private Milton, says, "I got it." And he grabbed the grenade and he turned away from them. He made a few steps away from them and he fell to the ground and folded up on the hand grenade, and he killed him. And Pat was there the morning they brought his body in. It had just happened. He was brought back. He was buried in Mississippi, Ebenezer, Mississippi. A few months later, LBJ issued he was presented his father with a Medal of Honor. His father received the honor of what his son Milton had done. And I thought, Pat was impacted by the fact that he was told he was there. I'm sure the boys that had been with him were telling the people, "Man, Milton got killed this morning. Bobby and them, they would be dead right now if it hadn't been for Milton. He was right there with them, man. He took it. He took it. He saved their life." I'm sure this was all the buzz there in the camp, what Milton had done that morning. It impacted my life. The fact that Pat told me about it impacted my life to the point that I want to go see his grave. I want to drive. It's 5.5 hours from here. I would like to go down and see Milton's grave. I'd like to see where Milton's buried. Milton's a hero. Selfishly gave his life. The unique thing, something I thought about was, as far as I know, I didn't find one. There's no Milton Lee Olive IV, because Milton Lee was the last one. See, Milton didn't have a family, he didn't have a wife, he didn't have a child, he didn't have a son to pass his name on to. In that millisecond that he made that decision, Private Olive gave everything that he had and everything that he ever will have to save the lives of those men that he was with. The lieutenant later went on to say that it was the greatest selfless act that he had ever seen. There's not a day that goes by that he doesn't think of Milton, and that his life will be forever changed by what happened that day. And I thought, these 4 men that actually experienced this, as they brought his bloody body back into the camp, thinking about what had just happened, how they probably, every breath that came out of them was praising Private Olive and what he had just done. Man, I'm here. You know why I'm here? Because Milton died for me, man. That's why I'm here. Because he took that grenade, he took it. That's why I'm here. He saved my life. And this was going through the camp. And these testimonies were impacting people like Pat. And then Pat tells me. And you see the symbolism for the story of Jesus. These men, these disciples were with Jesus the day he went to the cross. They saw him hang on the cross. And they went out to the world. They gave their lives spreading the good news because they had witnessed what Jesus had done for them, you see, and that he had done it for us. I had to make notes this morning, because I didn't want to miss anything. I hear a lot of folks, and I understand this because I've been there, I understand this. They say, Doug, I don't feel comfortable, telling people about Jesus. I don't feel comfortable witnessing. I don't feel comfortable. And I can understand that. And I've been there. I do. But when we look at the experience of the boys who were with him that morning and the experiences of the people who heard the story, you see the difference. When it becomes real as to what happened, it's not hard to talk about it. In your mind's eye, if you'll go to the cross and look upon the cross and look who's hanging there, in your mind's eye, go to the cross and look who's hanging there and look at his broken body, cut and bruised and battered, nails in his hands and his feet, bloody and sweaty and dirty. Look who's hanging there, and then look at who should be on that cross. See, it should be us. It should be us that should be hanging there. Just like that lieutenant knew that when Milton grabbed that hand grenade was meant for all of them. It was meant to take them all. But Milton took that hand grenade and he changed everything. Milton gave them life. Milton laid down his life so they would have life. He gave everything that he had and everything that he will have so they would have life. And their life was forever changed by it. And when we want, when you truly believe that Christ died for your sin, that it was you that should have been hanging there, and you know that he died for you, changes everything. And it's easy to tell folks about him. It's easy to tell people about the man who took your place, the man that took the hand grenade for you, and the man that took your place on the cross. You see the difference? It's about a relationship. How do you get a relationship like that? It's easy. All you have to do is believe that Jesus went to the cross for you. And also, now here's one thing, and I'm going to close with this. The difference between all the men that heard the story about Milton and the ones who were actually with him, the difference in them was that they knew that their life was in danger. They knew their life was in danger. There was when that hand grenade went off right there, when it landed them in their midst, pin was gone, it was armed. They knew that in a millisecond, they could be blown to pieces. No doubt about it. And they knew that Milton saved their life. When a person understands, there's only two places we're going to end up. We're going to end up with the Father in eternity. We're going to end up in eternity with Jesus. We're going to be in the most wonderful place, and it's going to be everlasting to everlasting. And that's something. Or we're going to spend eternity in hell with Satan and his demons. And it is torment. There's nothing in this world like it. It's never ending. It says where the worm is never satisfied, the fire is never quenched. It's never ending. There is no end. That's the options. And when we understand that we are in danger of eternal damnation, when we understand that and believe that, and then believe and understand Jesus took our place. We don't have to die that way. We don't have to go that way because of what Jesus done. Amen. And when we see him hang on that cross, in our mind's eye, we see Jesus hanging there and know it should have been us and that he saved us from hell. He saved us. That's what he came. He came to save us from hell. That's what he did. When we believe that, you are a totally different person. You're a different creature. And you won't have any problem telling folks about Jesus. I promise you. It'll come easy. When you know that in your heart and you believe it, telling others about what Jesus has done for you will come easy. And with that, I'm going to close. Miles, if you want to we'll do our last hymn.